Hi, and welcome to another episode of Top Volts. And today I've decided to try and build a Formula Junior Scalextric car from some of the best parts that I've got. Going over some of the body shells, I've kind of already looked at these parts to work out that I think I can make something from this. And the one that stands out to me is this, the bottom chassis. To one of these top bodies is the Triange Scalextric BRM C72. So if we can find enough components to put this together, so I think looking at this bottom chassis compared to this Cooper, I think would be the way forward. Okay, so we'll put that to one side. And looking closer at these two body shells, this one has a little bit of damage to the screen on the side and is quite a bit dirtier, so it would take a little bit more cleaning. And this one looks to be in better condition, certainly cleaner from inside. So I think we'll go with the easier option and go with this number 8 body shell. Okay, and there doesn't seem to be any other brakes, just a bit of a clean needed. So we'll put that to one side. And then moving into, these were the 4 best tyres, second-hand tyres that I had kicking about. A few little splits in there, but I can replace these later on. I think for the point of this video, we'll hopefully we'll have a running car at the end of it. And then onto the steering, we have a few options here. So that seems to be in good working condition. Quite clean as well. Another one here. Once again, a little bit stiffer, but still in good condition, maybe a bit more of a clean. I think that's of a different model, so we won't worry about that. So I think, looking at what we've got, it's a choice out of these two. And I think I'm going to go with these ones. Which looks to be in good condition. Actually, this one might have a slight little bit of damage there, which looks like an old repair. So I think we'll go with these ones. They're all pushed in. So with these, you have these brass rivets that are pushed through here, and they hold this entire mechanism together. You can see they're pushed right the way through there from this side. And what there is, there's a spiral pattern, which I may be able to show you actually. So if I just push one of these out, you can see that comes out. And on there's a spiral. So that cuts in and links them together if you just carefully press. That pushes just back in there. Perfect. Okay, so we've got our steering picked. And wheels. So we don't need the front steering. We'll put those to one side. In the way of rears, that one looks to be in pretty good condition. But they do more of a matching pair. Okay, so we go over these ones. Put that one to one side. Nose cones. I think maybe we'll go for a white. And this one looks in better condition, so we put that to one side, get rid of those. I've only got the one pickup with a decent guide, and actually the braids don't look too bad on this. And the solders look good as well. And we have connection points already, which is brilliant. So we'll go with that. So we don't need the braids. Okay, so down to motors. This one appears to have a bit of corrosion. So looking at the motors, there's quite a good magnet there. And we do have a fairly intact motor, although quite a bit of corrosion on here, and is actually quite stiff, where we could correct that. We'll use some components from this. I've got a couple of outer frames, some brushes. See, this is very free. The wires look very good and intact as well. Put that to one side for a moment. This one looks in good condition as well. The copper wire seems to be in very good condition on this one, although there's a lot more wear at the point of contact. So I think we'll go with this one to one side. And I think because this one is literally so stiff, it may require a little bit more work to get this one going. And I think looking at here, I put these together earlier in the hope to repair this one. But actually, in fact, I think we've got enough components here to put this motor back together. And even the pinion inside there looks in good condition. Okay, so I think let's put this one back together. So first things first, we'll go with the frames, which have this little kink. And you should be able to thread that down into the side of the motor until you feel a click. And carefully push that back up. And the same on this side, with that kicking down. Into the side, feel a click, and carefully push back up. Okay, so there's a little bit of rubbing, so hopefully this spacer will sort that out for us. So we'll just place this back on. I think maybe a small amount this point. Okay. Okay, that feels good. Let's see if we can line that up. Perfect. That does feel very free as well. Actually, in fact, we need to place that the opposite way around. Okay, and we place our magnet back into place. Oh, that's great. They appear to be lined up. Now pivot support will go into there. Brilliant. And the bolt goes through there. A tiny little nut, which I think we would have to place on a bit later once we get the pickup connected. The spring, maybe we just pull that out ever so slightly, just to get a little bit more on that. You need to make sure this sleeve is in place so you don't arc across the two. So it's quite an important sleeve to have on there. Okay, let's take our pickup. Okay, so we'll place this onto the side. I'll take our nut, place that on. And you don't have to tighten up very tight on this at all, because it's brass. You really don't want to over tighten this, because you could destroy that nut or even the thread going through there. Okay, so that's on there good. Okay, so our next step is to place the brushes into place. Okay, so we'll place the spring over there, so it locks in. There's a recess in front of the screw here, right in front of there, which the spring sits in just snug inside there. Hopefully that will stay in place for us. Okay, so once that spring's in place, sat in that recess, the next job will be the brushes. So what we'll do, we'll place the brush on this side first. So just rest that in there. Being very careful not to break the brush off, because they are incredibly fragile and a bit of a pain to replace as well. So you just want to carefully threadle that in. This can be a little bit tricky, this, so patience is definitely the way forward. So you just want to get that sat in there. And these Formula Junior motors are very small. And the components are very small as well. Okay, so that just slides through. And what I tend to do is place the first spring in place and pull this one over, and that holds it in place while you put the other one in. So just place it into the slot. And very carefully push it across. Okay, perfect. And then release that side, and that will hold the brushes in place. And that's great. And then what you want to do, where on the side where you got the sleeve on the spring, you take this connection, and what we want to do is slide that over the sleeve, and then that makes connection to the opposite brush. So now these 2 points will not arc out because you've got this protective sleeve, but the connection running to the guide and to the braids. And this actually feels very, very smooth. So I'm just going to place the tiniest bit of oil just at the front and a tiny bit more at the back. I think just a very small amount on this rear axle. I think maybe what we should do is just give that just a slight clean. Just ever so slight clean. Just using a small amount of alcohol. And what I tend to like to do is just to place that inside and just turn the motor. And just remove any oil or grease or carbon from the brushes. Okay, that's great. So what we should do now is test this motor before we put it into the car. So we'll just place these onto the braids. And just feed a small amount of volts in. Okay, there we go. What I need to do is just make sure these connections are clear and clean. There we go. That appears to be working quite well. So I'm just going to increase the volts slightly. All right, perfect. That's ready to go in. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the steering. So what we want to do first is just make sure this is definitely operating as we want it to. There's no breaks, there's no cracks. It all seems clear, all the connection points are good. So let's connect the guide with the braids onto here. So what we have is a fixing location and also another piece there. So we've got these 2 points of contact. They've got to meet the guides. So if I can angle this in such a manner that you can see, there's a spigot with a raised area of plastic, if you can see that, and that should be able to click into place into that location there. So when we're feeding this in, we just want to get a slight bite on that. So you don't want to push it all the way, and then you want to locate that back location and then push all the way. And that, perfect, should be operating just like that. So now this is ready to go into the chassis. So now we'll place all this into the chassis. The chassis on this is technically the body. The chassis clicks underneath, but this is a body shell with all the connection points on the top. So what we want to do first is actually put the steering section in first with the pickups and the guide. So what there is underneath, we need just to make sure this is on above the steering. So we're going to bring this around. So we've got this clear up the top with the cables above. And underneath you've got 2 points of connection, the front and the back. What I tend to do is I like to feed the front in first. So on the underside of the body shell, you've got 2 points there that the steering goes into. So placing the front in first, you don't want to click the two in together because you're going to put a lot of stress on there. So what I tend to do is to slide the first one in first, the front one in first. So you can hear that go in. And then the rear here. Perfect. Now that's connected. It's pivoting like it should. And then in with the motor. So we've got the pivot point just in the center there. That enables the motor to pivot on its axis. That's brilliant. And then what we want to do is just ensure that these cables sit clear and they're not going to get pinched when we place the undercarriage, the chassis, we could say. I'll just make sure it's clear over that side for when we do the body shell. I tend to like to place that under. So we have the motor, steering assembly, and the cables placed out the way. So we'll put the rear wheels on now. Okay. Just give them a pinch together. Brilliant. And then on with the tyres. So the smaller front tyres, larger rear. Brilliant. And then the front. With the fronts, just be a little bit more careful because these are very fragile on the steering there. So just take your time with it. Like I said, I think these tyres could do with replaced, which I'll get some on order. You can pick the tyres up quite cheap for these. I think on average they're sort of £4 for the 4 on like eBay or Amazon or somewhere like that. So we're nearly done. So on with the nose cone. Just check that for the right direction, which is there. You find that the lip goes to the top. And then before placing the last section on, we'll just test the motor one last time. That's working very well, very smooth. Perfect. I'll just place the last of the chassis / undercarriage into place, which once again has 2 fixing locations. And careful not to pinch the cables. Just like that one there, it's just come across. So you just want that on the inside of that locating pin. And that one's just pushed inside there so it doesn't get pinched. Brilliant. And that looks great. Perfect. So our next job is just to give this a run up. Make sure it's all operating as we want it to. Okay, so we're going to give this a little run up. Going to keep the volts low initially, and slowly increase them. We're just going to let the motor just run in for a little bit. So I'm just going to raise the back wheels, give it a small amount of revs, volts should I say. And slowly increase. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you enjoy what we've gone through today and taken some tips possibly from it. As always, if you have any helpful tips or guides or information you would like to pass on, please put it down in the comments. I'll try my best to respond, but any information is always very, very welcome, especially with these old vintage Scalextric cars, as we like to keep as many of them going as we can. It's been really enjoyable putting this back together and actually salvaging this from parts. Now I've actually got a functional Scalextric car that I can put with my collection. Okay, well, thank you very much, and see you at the next one.